Okay, I'd like to call to order the September 18th meeting of the Crooked Creek Art League. So welcome to everybody for our first meeting of the new league year. I trust everyone had a great summer, and now we're looking forward to the fall activities. So my name is Yvonne Beyer, and I'm the president of the Art League this year. My husband, Brian, and I, who is also a league member, you want to raise your hand, Brian, or stand up? Yeah, we're a pair. We live in the Ballantyne area. While we really appreciate all the artists in the league, our interest lies in photography. So, and I know several of you are also into photography. We've enjoyed participating in much of what the league has to offer and look forward to the plans for the coming year. I've been working on my role as president since early this summer and have gotten to know many of you pretty well. I've discovered that so many of us are going through hard times or difficult situations maybe, and my hope for you is that you can spend time immersed in your painting or your painting projects or out doing photography in order that some of those burdens might be a little lighter. We have so much that's already been planned for our members to participate in, things such as workshops, monthly meetings with presenters, juried art shows, public galleries, community art projects, and time to gather with other artists. Plus, you can always sign up as a volunteer to help with the many opportunities that the league offers. There's always plenty to choose from to keep us busy. So we have over 150 members in our league this year, and we are still growing. So what a great thing. And as you can see, the room is getting full. We had to bring in more chairs. So that is so wonderful. So many members have volunteered this year to give of their time by serving in numerous ways. Our board of directors, along with additional committee members, work very hard to keep our league running smoothly. Our non-board service and support team are also very important in what they handle, and we just couldn't do without any of them. So I want to say thank you to all those who hold these positions, and we appreciate you so much. If there are others who would like to help with the needs of our league, I would ask that you get in touch and let us know of your willingness to serve. So I'd like to introduce you to another important member of our service and support team. Tyler Horton is in charge of all things technology. He's new to us this year, and he's running the Zoom meeting as well as making sure we have good sound coming across the room. He has cameras to be able to capture our presenters' demos, as well as making sure the Zoom folks can all see what's happening. So we can thank Tyler for the pre-meeting music and the slideshow presentation. And Tyler takes care of so many of the moving parts that to help make our meeting enjoyable. So Tyler, do you want to add anything else about yourself? Okay, thank you. So if you'd like to submit announcements or brags about maybe things that you've done recently or favorite art to be included in that pre-meeting slideshow, you can send it to the crookedcreekartleague@gmail.com so you can get seen. So do we have any new members here who have joined since last May? Can you maybe stand up and just introduce yourselves to us and tell us what your specialty is in art? All right. Well, that's great to have everybody here. If you didn't already, remember to sign your name on the sign-in form because there will be door prizes at the end of the evening. So want to make sure and sign your name in. So I'm just going to go through some quick announcements. I have a little bit of a long list, but things that maybe you would like to know before we get on with our presentation. Membership renewal. I'd like to remind everyone to go online to renew your membership. If you've not done so already, please do that. Consider signing up for a patron membership as you'll be able to receive more benefits, and also the league will benefit you as well. Be sure to keep checking out our website. We've got a lot on the website. There's member resources, there's registration for exhibitions, upcoming workshops, and the latest news. It's all on the website. So please check that often. Things change, and there's just so much that you can be updated with. Right now on the website, there's a member survey. If you can complete that for us by October 1st, that's the deadline. We'd love to hear your feedback. There's some questions you can answer. It's just a short survey, but it can give us a little bit better idea of what the league would like to see happen. The public galleries. If you would like to sign up to display in one of our public galleries, please go to the website again to register. We're not going to have a sign-up sheet at the meeting like we used to do. So just go online. Diane Neal or Karen Petta will be glad to answer questions you might have. Diane, where are you? That's Diane. So if you have questions for her about displaying in the public galleries, make sure and talk with her, or you can email her. We have some upcoming workshops, and actually we have someone that is doing a workshop. Patricia Rabel is doing our first workshop on October 6th and 7th. And actually she is on Zoom with us tonight. So she's going to just talk for just a second here about her workshop called Making Handmade Artist Books Using Monoprints. So if we can get Patricia on our Zoom to come and speak quick, she can tell a little bit more about that. I think we need a few more people to sign up for that in order to make it happen. And is the deadline for that, I think maybe the 25th of this month? Okay, yeah, we need to sign up by the 25th. So if you're interested in that, please sign up. So do we have Patricia? Okay, go ahead, Patricia.
Hi, how is everybody this evening? I got into this, as you can see, I was a mixed media artist, and I got into this about a year ago after I got into printmaking. But part of the reason was that I wanted to try this new art form, and it's coming back in vogue. It started in the 1700s with William Blake, because he was a poet as well as an artist. And this is a great way, if you're a painter, photographer, even a sculptor, of combining things. One of the things we plan to do, I'm going to try to hold this up, is a one-page book that is one sheet of paper and cut out. Now, this one is a little larger. It's a piece of watercolor paper, but I wanted you to see, and it's on both sides. And of course, I've written a little story on this side. Another book that will be doing something very similar is we'll be doing another accordion fold. And this one, you can see I've collaged, I've done sewing, and then I've actually done some writing and included that, and we'll be showing you how to do a pamphlet stitch. You can also just take bits and pieces of paintings or prints or drawings, again, and combine them into your own archival artist book, which is a form of art in itself. And the last, and perhaps the simplest, and all of these can be done as gifts. I did one for a friend's birthday with all the memories that we had collected. One of the others we're doing is a simple lotus fold. But if you take this book and do something very Christmassy with it, and then have your ties, then it opens up and folds into an ornament. And I just love this because we can do monoprints using the gel plate, and this becomes very personal. You can write words in it. You could do greetings, anything. You could do your photographs. We can take sheets of music if you love music, anything. But then you've got this tiny little mini book that you can give as a gift. And I got involved, like I said, about a year ago, and then spent 2 weeks at Penland this summer, learning how to do a lot of this, and I hope I can share it with all of you. Questions?
Thank you, Patricia. Appreciate you explaining a little bit more about what that will be like, and I hope that will spark some interest for everyone, because like I said, it'll be a fun time to learn something new, and also fun time to get together with other artists. So, all right, our Still Hopes exhibition is right around the corner. The taking of the artwork will be Saturday, December 2nd, and the reception will be on Saturday, December 9th. The prospectus and the key dates are all on the website, but starting tomorrow, you can go online and register. Now, Still Hopes is a place that we can only accept 50 pieces. So you need to sign up early if you want to display. The online entry will run until November 21st or until we have 50 entries. So you'll be able to register a second piece, but those will only be considered if we don't reach 50. These second entries will be added in the order in which they are received until our limit is reached. So please, again, read the prospectus carefully as you prepare your entries. There's been a few changes that have been made on the prospectus this year. So read it carefully, prepare your entries, and then go online to register. There will be no library show in November due to a scheduling conflict with the library, but we will have one in May next year. So just be thinking ahead to May and what you'd like to put in at the library show. We had a great day representing the Art League at the Chapin Labor Day Festival. We passed out a lot of brochures about our Chapin Art Trail, and people took photos in front of the wings that were already part of the mural. So that was pretty cool. Nikki Peoples continues to paint the mural, and you can see it come alive in the next few weeks. The mural is located on the northern wall of the building at 115 Clark Street. So if you just drive down Clark Street, you'll see the big blue building and then see her mural that's coming alive there. So thank you to Nikki for all she's doing to make this happen. The New Chapin News. We had a great article in the New Chapin News last week written by Sandra Oliver and Ruby Deloach. So thank you for writing that article. That was great. It might be the beginning of more articles to come. So thank you to both of you. The Tap Gallery, reminder to bring your artwork next month if you want to display in the Tap Gallery, which is just right outside here as you were coming in. It's that wall right there. Remember, remember to attach your artist label. And the theme for the October meeting is the warmth of the sun. So either get busy and start painting something or look through what you have at home already and try and meet the requirements of the theme being the art or the warmth of the sun. And just one more last thing before I turn it over to Lainey. We're in the middle of doing a Constitution update. So I'd like to thank the members of the Constitution and Bylaws Committee for their hard work on bringing the proposed updates to the Board of Directors. After careful review by the board, we are recommending changes to the Constitution that will need to be voted on by the membership at our November meeting. So the newly revised copy will be mailed in a couple days to the membership, along with a summary of the proposed changes. Because I know some of you maybe don't want to just read through a Constitution, but if you can see a summary of it, and then you're still welcome to read through and see, if you agree with everything. If you have any feedback regarding these changes that we're proposing, we ask that you get back with us by October 6th, because our board will meet again on October 9th. And so we'll take your feedback into consideration. The board will then bring its final recommendations to our general meeting on October 16th, so next month. And then and voting for the changes will take place at our general meeting on November 20th. So it won't be till November that we actually vote. So watch for your email for a copy of the proposed changes and get back with us if you have any other feedback. So at this time, I'd like to turn the meeting over to Lainey McWilliams, our Vice President, for some announcements.
Good evening. It's great to be with you tonight and to be able to serve in this position for the next year. I don't understand what the music is that's bleeding through, but I do apologize for that. I see some of you are a little disturbed by that, but we do have some music that's bleeding through somewhere. You can hear it. It's from the hall? Okay. then we can't do anything about it. Sorry about that. So I am thankful to serve as the vice president this year. And one of my duties is to line up the presenters and for our general meetings. And I tried to consider that we have a wide variety of types of artists and hope that the coming months will reflect some of that variety for you. In October, thank you to our last year's vice president. Where is Debbie Kelly? There she is. We have Michael Story coming back to talk to us. This time he's going to talk about color theory, which should interest all our artists, whether you're a photographer or you do mosaics or whatever. Color theory still is important across the board. So we're real thankful for that. In November, we have a photographer, Rick Rhodes. He's coming from Charleston, and he's going to do a demonstration on how to achieve good results when photographing artwork for your digital media. Some of you have to put your digital media on, digitize it in order to enter these contests. And so Rick is going to come and talk to us about how to do that more professionally. And maybe you have a personal website and you need to learn how to do more of that. So he should be here in November. And then in December, on the 18th, which is the third Monday of the month, we're going to have our annual Christmas party. And we'll do it again at Chapin Town Hall. Sorry about that. If you are interested in helping with the Christmas party, if you like to do some with the decorating or with the games, will you please let me know? I would love to have help with that. You could sign up for that. And speaking of signups, our meeting reception chair was not able to be here, Carol Blackwood, but I did bring a sign up for refreshments for next month. And Sandy is going to start it on the back row and pass it. It'll be passed around. So if you can bring refreshments for next meeting, if you'll sign up, make sure you put your contact information so Carol can send a reminder. And we always try to do a variety of things. So you might want to see what other people are bringing. CCAL has 2 juried shows. And we talked about one, Still Hopes is coming up. But we also have an annual juried show that will be in in March. Thank you. I am blonde, people. My husband always says details, Lainey, details. So March. Anyway, we can use more sponsors for this show. Our sponsors are essential for us to have a good show. They help us buy great printed material. They help us get our jurors. They help us with the reception and prizes. So if you know of a business that might be ready to support the arts in this area, can you please let Kay Stallings know? Kay, where are you? Could you stand up? And Kay is our fundraising person. And so you can let her know about that. And Sonia, I think you're going to maybe help her as well. So Sonia Dimmler. So if you have an idea of a business that might want to be a sponsor, let them know. Also, our individual members, we as a group can help sponsor the juried show. If you give $25 or more towards the juried show, then you'll get a little cling decal to go on your car. And we just encourage all of us to work together to make these shows great. We really did have spectacular shows last year, so I'm excited about that. And speaking of spectacular shows, that comes to our presenter this evening. Our presenter tonight is Vic Shuler, and most of you will probably recall that Vic won Best in Show for his fabulous oil painting of a night in Paris. Yes. I'm just going to introduce you a little more, but you come on up. And Vic, you can correct me if I get anything wrong. It wouldn't be the first time. Vic recently restarted his journey in fine arts after spending many years in graphic design. Vic studied fine art just a few years ago, at the Ringling School of Art and Design in Sarasota, Florida. If you get an opportunity to talk to Vic, you'll soon understand that he is a man who is passionate about the arts. Vic is a lifelong learner, and we look forward to gleaning a little of that passion and learning tonight. Vic.
Thank you so much. Excited to be here. I wanted to talk about inspiration. Inspiration is something that all artists need on a daily basis, especially when we're working on projects. I I'm so thrilled to be here. I love art, and you can probably tell that. But speaking of inspiration, it's absolutely essential as artists that we are inspired. It's an overarching thing that is involved with art in general. I'm going to just talk a little bit about what an artist is. There are two words that describe an artist, and I know you're probably all familiar with them. Skill. We're skillful creators. Creators. That's what artists are. Without those two essential things, we're not artists. We can't be. We have to have skills, and that takes sometimes a week. We start somewhere, and then we just continue to build our skills. And it takes a long time to do that. I've been doing graphic design for 45 years. And when I went to art school, we learned all the basic skills, painting, drawing, everything, all of those things. But then when I went into graphic design, it's a completely different thing. Everything that you do in graphic design is print, billboards, direct mail pieces, anything in print. But fine art is completely different. When you deal with skills, you've got individual skills that you develop. For instance, you might be very good with a pencil or paint brushes. When I talk about creator, that simply means that we create something from nothing. It doesn't mean that perhaps that we're, create flourishes and things that we do are beautiful. But as an artist, these are the absolutely essential things that we have to have. But there is an overarching thing that ties these two things together, and that is inspiration. Without inspiration, our work will feel empty and to some degree lifeless. But when we add inspiration to our work, and there's a lot of different ways we can be inspired. If you listen to music, you enjoy music, or you go to the library and check out books about art, or you work with your fellow artists to learn and communicate together, you'll develop those skills and the creativity that's required to become an artist over time. I've been developing my skills for a long time, but when I first started out, I started, let's see, can you start with the first slide? Keep going. My mother introduced me to the work of Norman Rockwell. He's one of my favorite artists. He's an illustrator, as a matter of fact. And his ability to work with a brush was so beautiful to me. And the way this man could capture a likeness was just mind-boggling to me. So I absolutely love Norman Rockwell. You can go to the next. When I was young too, I loved science fiction novels. And John Berkey was particularly of interest to me because he is very imaginative in his work. And his imagination was just phenomenal. He created hundreds of these illustrations. And I absolutely adore his work. Another artist that I was turned on to in the similar vein was Sid Mead. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that name, but he's wonderful. Andrew Wyeth, my mother introduced me to his work. That is a legacy family. N.C. Wyeth preceded Andrew. He was his father. N.C. Wyeth was an illustrator, did a lot of illustrations for American books. And his son, Andrew, went in a completely different direction. Realism, I mean, hyper-realism was his forte. And Andrew's son, Jamie, is also an incredible fine artist. This is the work of Bob Peak. When I was in art school, we worshiped this guy. He was so phenomenal. We just loved his work. He has done many posters for Hollywood films. And you might be familiar with that art, but Bob Peak is just tremendous. And this is my absolute favorite illustrator. His name is Bernie Fuchs. He was a New York illustrator. He's since passed away, but he used oil washes over the entire painting. And then he would, using turpentine, he would pull those lights out. And he created these dramatic effects with light. And I just, when I look at his work, I can't help but be inspired. I just love this man's work. And photography. This is the work of Edward Curtis. He's an American photographer in the late 1800s, early 1900s. He photographed American Indians, and I love this man's work. It's just so compelling and beautiful. And he's taken hundreds of these photographs. If you go to the Library of Congress website, you'll find hundreds of these photographs that he's taken. They're just wonderful to look at. Ansel Adams is another one of my favorite photographers. Ansel used a technique whereby he used, what's it called? There's a shutter speed and there's f-stops. He would close his f-stops down to extremely tiny hole, and then he would expose the film for a long period of time. And what it did is he would have everything in focus from foreground to background and be in perfect sharp focus. And also, in addition to that, his grayscale values over his entire photographs were just amazing. So I love his work as well. And this, I don't know if y'all are familiar with Lee Jeffries. Anybody familiar with Lee Jeffries? Oh my goodness. Go to his, just go on Google and type his name. He photographs homeless people. And he uses a 23mm lens, so he gets very close to their faces. And he captures just the most beautiful emotion in these people. Some of the most compelling photography I've ever seen. But he's wonderful. And this is a chart that I created. It's called the Perpetual Spiral of Inspiration. And if you'll notice in the middle, this guy here is that's a Vermeer painting. It's called Girl with a Pearl Earring. And as a matter of fact, Johannes Vermeer was inspired by one of Rembrandt's pupils. And so if you'll notice, if you go back in the past, he was inspired by somebody in his past. This person right here was inspired by Girl with a Pearl Earring and created this piece. This artist was inspired by this painting and created this piece, and so on. And any one of these pieces can inspire a brand new spiral. And all of this work just continues to go into the future. So the importance of using our skill and inspiration when we create work, it creates a very compulsive thing. It's actually the artwork that creates the compulsion, the desire for you. It reaches out to you and grabs you and makes you say, look at me. And that's what's so fantastic about adding inspiration to your work. What I do oftentimes, if I'm working on a piece and I have a dry spell where I just don't feel like work, I don't work. I just get away from it. And if I have to, I'll go take a drive in the country and take my camera with me and stop, and I look at everything, and I'll stop and photograph and spend time, in nature or whatever it happens to be. Music. I love John Williams. I'll listen to John Williams while I'm painting. And for me, he's just incredibly inspiring. Bach, Beethoven, just wonderful music to listen to. And other artists. In my studio, I have a library in the back of my studio completely filled with books by John Singer Sargent, complete resumes of all these great artists' works. And I'll sit down and just put a book in my lap and just pour over. And in 30, 45 minutes, I'm inspired. I'm ready to paint. But that is something we have to do as artists. Inspiration, if I can write, is the fuel that drives artists to create compelling work. That is absolutely essential. That's exactly what inspiration is. Inspiration is also self-perpetuating. It just keeps going. As long as you see somebody's work and you're inspired, you might create a piece, and that person might see that piece and create a piece, and it just keeps going. It's self-perpetuating. Also, inspiration has the power to transform your life. That is a fact. When you're inspired, you go through a transformation yourself. And it's a personal transformation. So I feel like we as artists must be inspired. We have a purpose in life as artists. Our purpose is to purvey beauty. I don't believe that we are meant as artists to drag society down. I believe our role in society is to elevate, to edify, and to bring beauty to everyone. That's my job. And I feel like it's a heavy responsibility. When I think about the word inspiration, the actual meaning, it's two parts. It's inhalation and exhalation. But the biblical meaning of inspiration is God breathed. God breathes out his creative power, and we're inspired by it. And it continues to grow in us, and it never goes away. That's the wonderful thing about inspiration. When you go through a dry spell, get inspired. Talk to somebody like Barbara. She inspires me big time. I think I'm going to go ahead and start a live demo. If that's it, you can go ahead and just run these like a minute or so. Or let me talk about the next one. Illustration versus fine art. Illustration is basically meant to augment an ad message. Or it can be a book cover that basically tells the story of the book, of the information inside. Or it can be a car ad, or it can tell dad how to put a bicycle together. That's what illustration is, as opposed to fine art. Fine art is art for art's sake. It's me creating something because I want to do it. My wife oftentimes says, Vic, you need to paint so-and-so. And I'm like, I don't want to paint that. I want to paint what I want to paint. And so sculpture, pencil drawing, that's a Kandinsky back there. I mean, these are pieces that are personal. They're personal to you, but they're beautiful in that they can affect other people. It can affect you as an artist and inspire you to create. I want to talk about something that everybody already knows, but it's always beneficial to talk about it anyway. Objectivity versus subjectivity. Objectivity is reality, real things, tangible, concrete things. Even in paintings, if you paint something that is based on reality, it's an objective painting. I won't, believe it unless I see it. It's based on reality. It's not imagined. As opposed to subjectivity, I might like eating, sardines, and you may think, oh my God, I will never touch a sardine. Well, that's taste of food. That's a personal leaning that we have. So this is all based on imagination, not reality. And that's what makes abstraction so wonderful. It's purely contrived out of my mind. It's fantastic. I have actually gone to galleries before and I like to listen to people talk about art. And I heard a couple one time said, "What the hell is that?" And you're like, well, mommy and daddy never taught you about having an imagination, I guess. But that is exactly what makes Kandinsky's work, in my opinion, so wonderful. It's just pure imagination, and it makes you think. And it's so fun to look at. I mean, I could stand in front of this painting for hours and just study it and move my eye through it. I just love it. Abstraction versus representational. Abstraction simply means to pull away from, to simplify something, to remove unnecessary elements to make the piece more compelling. And so if you'll notice, this is a similar scene I found on Google. This is an abstraction. It's more imaginative, but it says the same thing as that. That is based on reality. It's true to form. It's like what that person saw when they painted that piece. And so it represents reality. And I feel like I personally am a representational painter, but I do love abstraction, and I'm gonna get out of my comfort zone and start doing some abstraction. I love it. Aesthetic response. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but as artists, this is one of the most important things that we can ever learn. Aesthetic response is the personal and innate ability of the viewer to find intrinsic value in a work of art. When you go into a gallery and look at someone's work, study it. Try to put yourself in that artist's shoes. Use empathy. What did that person go through to create the art they created for your enjoyment? There's oftentimes you'll find struggle in a painting. When I look at Andrew Wyeth's work, and I've actually seen it in person, I find thumbprints and fingerprints in his paintings all over the place. Like he's stuck his hand in the paint and just works areas fearlessly. And so I love to try to read. I run my eye everywhere in a painting and try to gather as much as I can from the person that created the art. It inspires me to think, how did they do that? Number one. So my recommendation to all of us is avoid the temptation to be dismissive in your effort to find intrinsic value in an artwork. Don't just walk up and then walk away to the next piece. Take the time to study it. It reminds me of a time when my wife and I went to see a ballet, and it was time to thank the ballerinas for all they'd done. And so we stood, and Brooklyn Mack, the principal dancer in Washington Ballet, took his bows, and we must have spent 15 minutes clapping. And Ruth Ann looked at me, she said, I'm sick of this. I'm ready to go home. And I said, sweetheart, I said, think about how much effort and time and what he's given to his craft. And I said, we can't do that. We're not going home. And so she appreciated it. When we got out of the car, she said, you're right. People spend years developing the skills they have. And those skills are valuable. And once learned, they never go away. I only went to art school for 3 years, and then I got my degree from Lander College in Greenwood, my Bachelor of Fine Art degree. But in the 3 years, I learned to paint, draw, use pastel, probably 20 different mediums, watercolor, acrylic, oil, all of it. And then I went and started doing graphic design and did that for 45 years. And only in 2022 did I start painting again. So those skills never leave. They're always with you. You might think, oh boy, I've got a long way to go. Well, you know, just do skill builders. And the things on the tables here are skill builders. They just help me develop my technique and teach me how to think and draw quickly and interpret things quickly. These are two illustrations I did in Adobe Illustrator with a mouse. Every single shape in these things was drawn with a mouse individually and then colored. All of these little tiny squiggles, every single piece was done in Adobe Illustrator with a mouse. And this is what I did for years. You know, when I did illustrations for projects, I did them all in Adobe Illustrator, all these little tiny shapes, individual pieces. They're called closed paths in Illustrator. And it takes, you know, hours to create this stuff. Every little feather stroke is done with Bezier curves and handles in Adobe Illustrator. And these are some of the logos I've done over the years. You may see some that you might be familiar with. I know this is in Lexington. I've done a lot of logos for hospitals, Women's Center at Oconee Medical Center, and they're now owned by Prisma Health. Link Signs and Graphics is a company right here in town. Lawrence County Healthcare System is not far from us. Gustavo is a wine brand. You might be familiar with Gateway Academy, Richland County. I just did that with Kevin Fisher not too terribly long ago. Palmetto Citizens I did probably 15 years ago, and you might be familiar with them. Manja Manja used to be a restaurant downtown. I did Carolina Bank. They're in the Low Country. Walker Law is in Lexington. So, you know, I've just done tons of this kind of stuff. You know, over the years, it's, oh, I'm sick of graphic design. Okay, I'll start and I'll start a live demo with everybody's permission. Yep. All right. I have a photograph that I'm going to work from. It's Henry Cabot Lodge, who's an American senator. Everybody can see him. Okay. All right. I'm going to try to, and I say try, try to build this guy. I love him. He's just got a beautiful face. If y'all have any questions, please feel free to ask while I work. I'm more than happy to talk.
What you're using in terms of paper
This is Canson medium gray. It's a pastel paper, a drawing paper, and then I'm using a willow stick, a heavy, fat willow stick, and I've got some thin ones. But I like to mass things in when I start to work, and I'm trying to work positive space against negative space. This is positive space. This is all negative, and I try to build those shapes first before I get too involved in detail, and try to find or place everything as best I can before I start really trying to assemble. But when you work in art, any kind of medium, you can't be afraid. You've got to be fearless. In any medium, typically, especially opaque mediums like acrylic, oil, pastel even, you can't make a mistake because you can always go over the top of whatever you're working on. So. Any questions? More than happy to answer or talk. Let's see. I'm sorry. Basically, I try to find the right line. That's the way I work. I'm constantly looking at, for instance, that distance is roughly that distance to the edge of the ear. So I'm trying to find these relationships, and shoot.
where were you born and raised?
I was born in Georgia. My daddy was in the military, and we lived in France from 1960 to 63, and I graduated from high school in Germany in 1973. I apologize. And then I started art school later in the year in 73. So yeah, born in Georgia. Oh yeah, for me, I have to be unafraid. Again, with any medium, you can typically undo anything. It's simply a matter of making adjustments. And you really can't be afraid. You've got to just put it out there. That that makes any sense at all.
Got another question.
Shoot.
When did your relationship with God become a part of your art? And do you pray before you start a work?
Very good question. You know, I'm in a constant state of prayer. I always pray. As a Christian, I got saved in 1971 at a Protestant Youth of the Chapel meeting in Germany. And Christianity has always been a very, very big part of my life. Thank you. I get my hair cut in Lexington at Lexington Barbershop. Thanks. I'm sorry. Oh yeah, I tell them to undercut it and bring up the side to my part, and then I just tell them to pull it back. That's about it. I'm sorry. Yes, exactly. Love it.
Artists in your family?
Oh yeah, my mother's an artist. She's also a writer. She's written, I don't know, 5 books, I believe, but she's self-published. She's not part of any actual publisher, real publishers or anything like that. All genres. She recently, not too terribly long ago, wrote a book called Kawimba, which is about a boy that is autistic, that's born, and when he came out of the womb, he was singing, and he had blue eyes, and he was born to a sharecropper couple in low country of South Carolina, and the boy had been given the gift of healing, and it's just a very intriguing book, very, very good book. Shoot.
Do you have a favorite medium? And what colors do you always go to?
That's a good question. You know,
You might want to repeat the question. Somebody else back there could hear it. The question was, do you have a favorite medium? And are there colors that you always go to?
favorite medium, probably acrylic. But I love charcoal. I love pencil. I love pencil a lot, but pencil requires a lot of time and thought. But I love charcoal. I love oil. Oil, probably the most difficult medium for me or anyone is watercolor. Watercolor is a very unforgiving medium. You really have to know how to handle it. And it may be effortless for some folks, but for me, it's a very difficult medium.
There may be folks in the audience who don't do charcoal drawings yet.
Yeah, right.
You might wonder what it is you're using now. 'Cause that's not-
This is called a white Conti crayon. A white Conti crayon. I like to use the gray of the paper as my mid value, and then I build whites into that, and conversely, I'll use darks as well, and then I'll smudge or scumble with my hand to get any kind of intermediate values installed in the piece. But again, all of this stuff, especially this, is a building process. Typically at home, I've been doing 30-minute studies. There are several of them here that are 30 minutes. That is a 45 to 50-minute study. This Indian right here. It took me about 45 to 50 minutes. And but I got lucky that day. You know, that doesn't always happen. That I find the right lines and shapes. Yeah, I got lucky that day. But you know, I love to just go out, and a lot of times my instructors say, go out and blow it. Don't try to make a perfect piece. Go out and make mistakes. If you don't make mistakes, you're not going to learn anything. And so it's extremely important for us just to go out and be fearless. Don't worry about messing up. You know, that's part of it. It's part of the process. And if you don't fail every now and then, you know, when you do fail, it's going to be really heartbreaking. Contemporary artists. Marshall Arisman is one of my favorites, and his work is frightening, but it's so compelling. It's, if you get a chance, if you got a phone, look him up. Marshall Arisman. Very frightening work. He's a fine artist and illustrator, but his work is amazing. Amazing. He has done illustrations and, like I said, illustrations and fine art, but he makes faces, human faces that look metallic.
Can you spell his last name?
Arisman. Marshall Arisman. Amazing artist. Scary. He does a lot of monkey drawings. And he calls his brother one of the monkeys that he draws. And yeah, he's kind of a little creepy. But yeah, Marshall's amazing. And he's a contemporary. But yeah, his work is amazing, truly amazing. Oh no, I wish I did. You know, it's unfortunate for us, all of us. All of us have, you know, our daily lives and difficulties and all the rest of it. And, you know, I got to go to the store and get groceries because Ruth Ann's working, and, you know, all of these kind of things, little things. My father passed away recently, so I had to deal with all of that. And, you know, there are things in life that get in the way. And oftentimes, a lot of us don't have a studio. We just have a space in the house to work in. And so I'm lucky. My wife bought me a building that I can work in. And I work in a little, it's called a shed, basically. It's a 20-foot long by 10 feet wide shed. And Barbara comes over there. I love it. I love it. I can go in there and just divorce myself from the rest of the world and concentrate on what I love. And, you know, all of us need that quiet place, a place where we can go and not worry about anybody distracting us, where we can just settle our minds and be creative, create something from nothing. That's what creativity is. And it's the skills that we build that makes that happen.
Switching to a different tool.
Yeah, this is just a charcoal pencil. It's a soft charcoal pencil. I sharpened it at home. I usually use a piece of sandpaper. I just sand it off and turn it as I sand it, and it cleans it up just enough to give me a little bit of. So I work detail, a little bit of detail at a time, and I try not to hold my pencil close like this, because you lose freedom when you hold a pencil this way. Even with a paintbrush, hold your paintbrushes at the end of the brush. It forces you to be loose. Don't be, don't necessarily, and I'm not preaching, hopefully, don't necessarily hold your brush, right on the tip. Try to work down here. You get more better, you get better control, believe it or not, when you work with your brush near the end. And it's hard. You're going to say, oh, I can't do that. There's no way. Yeah, you can. It's all muscle memory. And you just have to be fearless. Just throw it out there. Exactly. Exactly right.
Another question.
Shoot.
Do you find that emotions work into your painting?
Oh, absolutely. In the case of Triumphant Rain, and I've told Barbara this story, I suffered over that painting. I mean, I cried over that painting. I really did. There were 4 times that I frustrated myself so much. My oil paint was wet, and I'd come in with a maul stick and forget that the paint was wet. And just, and I've spent like 4 or 5 hours on one little section, and that maul stick just, man, I'm like, I cried. Just like, oh, I got to do that again. I did that 4 times on that painting. 4 times. What happens when you're an artist is you get in the zone and you get so involved in what you're doing, you forget everything else. It's like you get in this crazy place where you forget about time, you forget to eat, you forget to go in the house and get something to drink. You're just so involved and engrossed in what you're doing. And I know you're probably all aware of it. If you're working on a sculpture, Olga, and you push the wrong part of that thing, you're like, I got to do that again. I know how it works. And in art school, we had to do sculpture. We had to make our own armatures and build the clay on the armature. I was not a sculptor. Trust me, I was not a sculptor. But I love two-dimensional art. And it just, for me, it's so enjoyable to work in any medium. Recently, Barbara and I went to one of her friend's house, and I painted in gouache with her, and I hadn't painted in gouache or watercolor in years. And it comes back so quick. It's like crazy. And Barbara, at the same time, I had brought a pastel kit with me. And exactly. Barbara decided, well, I've never done pastel before. I'm afraid of pastel. I don't know what to do with this stuff. And you did a great job, did a beautiful job. I was like blown away at the piece you created. And we gave those pieces away that day to the lady that her house. She's a gardener, phenomenal gardener. And we sat out there in the sunshine and painted. And she's framed those pieces. They're on her wall. But love that experience. And that's one thing that you cannot put a price on, is the fellowship that we have as artists. If you ever have a question or somebody you need to talk to about art, there's always someone here that can answer a question. And if they can't, they'll put you on to somebody that can, let me get back to doing what I'm trying to do here. I'm not doing a very good job getting kind of, please.
This is a plug, and the ones that are new members, you saw in your packet that we offer mentorship. So if you are interested in that, and having somebody you can ask questions about the league things, shows, jury show, a non-jury show, or maybe getting connected with somebody that does the genre of art that you do, then follow up with that little sheet in your new member packet about how to get a mentor.
You want to introduce Dale? They're here.
Oh, Dale and Don, could you guys stand up? These are our mentor people that do the connecting for us. So
Awesome.
thanks.
Oh, no problem at all. Any other questions? for me.
Advice would you give like a 20 or 30-year-old yourself, if you could?
Regarding art? If they love art and feel compelled to do art, tell them to do it. You can go for it. You know, it's like one of the gentlemen said over here, you know, there's a gazillion YouTube videos out there that teach all kinds of great stuff. But for me, just the raw experience of actually working, doing it yourself, that's how you build your skills. And I'm by no means a great artist. I am just a learner. I always will be. If you were to ask John Singer Sargent if he was a master, if he were alive today, he would say no. You always learn. You're always learning. You're always developing. There's always something that you haven't tried. And that's what I keep telling Barbara, get out of your comfort zone. Get out of your comfort zone. Don't just, if you love doing landscape, great. Don't always do landscape. Do some portrait. Get out a pen, a ballpoint pen, and go draw with a ballpoint or a ink. Get out of your comfort zone. Don't just sit and be afraid to try something different. For me, my fear is abstract work, and I love it. It's absolutely gorgeous, but it's not easy to do. Some people think, well, you know, that's nothing but a bunch of paint on them. No, it doesn't work that way. No, it takes real skill and thought and imagination to create that stuff. And I call it stuff, but it's not stuff, it's art. And there are a number of things you can do. I'm going to tell you what art is. I've got some notes here. Let me grab my glasses. I want to talk about this because I think it's important. What art is, this is the litmus test for art. If you see a piece, ask yourself, does the artist have passion for the subject? Can you see passion for the subject in the art? Is the execution done skillfully? And this goes for photography as well. You got to know what you're doing to be a photographer. You've got to have serious skill to be a photographer. Aesthetic quality. Does the piece grab me, compel me to look at it? Aesthetic quality is extremely important. Is the piece created by human hands? And is the piece permanent? That's the litmus test to tell you whether something's art or not.
Is the piece permanent?
What do I mean by permanent? It's likely to last well beyond your years. As a matter of fact, there is a number of pieces that Picasso created called Guitar. And they were studies that he did, and he did them out of cardboard. Now that is not a permanent piece. So the curators of the museums have to take particular care with these things so they don't fall apart. They're made with string and cardboard and tape, of all things. So you know, art has to be permanent. If it's not, if it doesn't outlive you, somebody's going to be paying the price down the road. It's like, I don't know if I can keep this thing protected and safe. Jasper Johns created the Ballantine beer cans in bronze, but he painted the bronze. And the curators are having a terrible time because if they bump up against each other, the paint comes off. So what do? You've got to get somebody that can retouch those pieces to make it look exactly like the artist intended. So there's a danger there. Art should be permanent. I remember in art school, one of my instructors grabbed a roll of tape. He said, this is what one guy did on an exhibition that we had recently. He said he was lazy. He was supposed to have his art in on time, but what he did is he took a roll of tape, he attached the end of it to the floor, he ran it across the floor and ran it at the wall and signed his name. And now, in my opinion, that's not art. This doesn't take skill. It's not permanent. So always use the litmus test. There is a gallery in California that recently purchased a $43 million rock. And they set it on a pedestal outside the museum, and they're calling that art. Well, that's not created by human hands. There's no skill involved. Just throw out the litmus test. Ask yourself the questions, and you'll know what art is and what it isn't. If somebody says, well, I'm an anti-artist, well, you're not an artist. Number one, don't call yourself an artist. If you're an anti-artist, you don't care anything about art. You got to love art to be an artist.
How about Banks?
I'm sorry?
How about Banks? His work is not meant to last, but it has skill, it's compelling.
There you go. Then it
But it does last.
well, you know,
But
there's a fella in New York who creates sculptures out of cardboard. And the curator said, no, this is not going to work. And he said, well, I'm interested in entropy. Everybody knows what entropy is. It means something that's just going to wither away. Okay. Well, he says, once I'm done with these pieces, I want to take them outside and put them in the rain and let the rain destroy them. So, you know, I'm like, okay. I can't see the point, because if you take that much time and effort to build something that's hopefully beautiful, you know, that's what I think our job is. There's so many folks in here that are so skilled and have so much talent and creativity that when I went to the last show and walked around, I was like, my jaw dropped, because I couldn't believe the talent. It's just amazing. Barbara, crazy work, man. Photography, beautiful, beautiful stuff. Yvonne Byers' photograph of the flowers, just crazy, gorgeous. These things inspire me, and they should inspire you to create great things. And that's what I love about art. I can't say enough about it. I absolutely adore art. And art should always, I don't want to take too long, art should always build us up, build society up. Society is suffering. And without people like you and me to create work that inspires others, what's the point? Talk about a boring world without art. Oh my word, we need art more than anything. We certainly need the Lord. But I mean, just one scripture can inspire a person to create something. For I am persuaded that neither death, nor life, nor angels, nor principalities, nor powers, nor things present, nor things to come, nor height, nor depth, nor any other creature shall be able to separate us from the love of God, which is in Christ Jesus our Lord. Romans 8:38 and 39. One of the most inspirational scriptures you'll ever read. Written by a man named Paul years and years ago, who was inspired by God. Simple as that. So inspiration should be one of the paramount things, overarching skill and creation. Create something from nothing with our skills, but the overarching thing is always inspiration. Shoot.
When you're doing a portrait and you want to get a really good likeness.
Yep.
Or if you're doing a landscape and you want to get it to look.
Sure.
At what point do you say to yourself, well, I think it's good enough, or I think I have it, so that you don't overwork it?
Oh yeah.
You know, when you
That's a tough call. A lot of pieces I do at home are unfinished. You have to decide how far you want to take a piece. Is it compelling enough to you? I often, when I'm working, I'll get to a point and I'll say, okay, I'm going to stop. I go back and sit on my bench or my stool and just look. And I'll spend an hour looking at a piece. And if you have a problem with it or you've got a question about something, flip the piece upside down and look at it. It makes you look at the piece objectively, not subjectively. Oftentimes when we do portraits, we get so attached to our subject and we have such passion for our subject that we forget the objective side. Turn the piece upside down and look at it. And then turn your reference upside down and look at it. And you'll be able to compare and you'll go, wow, that's way off. You know, I do that all the time. You have to. As artists, you know, we are our own worst critic. We are our own worst critic. I'll sit down and just, perspective's wrong, Vic. You got to fix that. And then I go again. I've got, you know, 3 or 4 more hours. I got to fix that perspective because I'm not satisfied. And I won't let go of a piece until I'm happy with it. And like I said, the only competition you and I have, it's not each other. It's ourselves. It's Vic. I got to compete against me. And if I'm not satisfied with what I create, there are thousands of artists in the past. They take a palette knife and scratch it all off. They scratch it right to the bone and throw that thing in the trash, throw that paint in the trash, and they start all over. You have to be willing to do that. It takes guts. Photography, same thing. You've got to be happy with your subject. Great photographs. This past week, I got up at 6:15 in the morning to go out on the beach to take photographs. And I spent an hour out there and I must have taken 600 photos. But some of them are so unbelievable. That sweet light before the sun actually came up, there were rays of light coming up. And I was like, tears were coming out of my eyes. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It's like, whoa. And then I showed these photos to my wife and she was like, oh, you've got to be kidding me. They were so stinking gorgeous. So that's how you get inspired. Just get out. Yep. Shoot.
We have an interesting comment. The online audience spotted an abstract horse in your piece right there.
Ah, cool. Help me find it.
It took me a minute. It's the top. It's the dark space on the top.
Oh, yeah, right here. Yeah.
That's the head on the right.
Cool. Awesome. I love it. Yeah. 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 I gotta put that jaw in there, you know. I'm done. I'm good. I'm good. Well, everyone, I hope you learned something about inspiration. I'm always learning about inspiration. I thank you so much for allowing me the privilege to come here and talk. Enjoyed it tremendously.
Thank you so much, Vic.
No.
There we go. Thank you so much. I'm inspired to go home and tear up the painting I was working on and start again. I know. I keep looking at it and going, I'm not happy with that. And so my husband always says, it's just paper and it's paint. You can throw it away, but that's hard when you put your heart in it. Okay. We're going to be asking you to give us 3 numbers from 1 to 61. Sorry, better use this by my mouth so that we can give away 3 door prizes. And this year we're going to do door prizes for $15 gift certificates to some art places. So, all right, 32. Sandy Sweatman, our illustrious greeter. Okay. 16. Okay, number 16. Brenda Peak. All right, one more. 59. TC Bowers. Draw again, he says.
Let's go with 45.
Donna Smithers. Thank you, Vic. And hopefully you'll be able to stay up here for a little bit and let people ask you questions. We don't have enough time for that, but we really, really appreciate you coming, your time, and just how inspiring you are. Very passionate. Yvonne's coming back.
I just want to echo Lainey in saying thank you, Vic, for what a fabulous presentation. I think it gives us, I mean, we enjoyed seeing your drawing, but all the comments that you've made to us and just the inspiration that you've given to all of us to think about as we go home has just been really great. So thank you so much. We have a lot to be thinking about. And I want to thank Tyler too, because we had a great view of your drawing, great Zoom presentation, all of your pre-music and all of the stuff on the screen. So we thank you. So anyway, we thank you too for your first time to be with us too. So we thank all the guests for coming out tonight. We hope you'll come back because we have lots of great presentations for you. Does anybody have any last minute quick announcements that they need to bring to us? All right. Well, so you can look forward to that on Wednesday mornings. A great time of fellowship. Yes, Sandra? Okay, so there's some books on the table over here. If anybody's interested, they can take them home with them. So anybody else? Yes. Well, happy birthday, Ruby. We appreciate you and all that you do for us too. So it's been a great evening here tonight. I hope you've all enjoyed it. And thank you too for the board for providing refreshments for us. We had a good spread of refreshments. And we look forward to seeing y'all again next month. So the meeting of the Crooked Creek Art League is now adjourned.